Welcome to the Iron Butterfly Podcast. My name is Megan Jaffer.
And I'm Katie Hopkins, and we will be your hosts.
We created Iron Butterfly Podcast in honor of Eloise Page, the original Iron Butterfly. 80 years ago, Eloise joined the Office of Strategic Services, trailblazing a path for what ultimately became the United States intelligence community. She rose the ranks from secretary to case officer, defying the norms of her time, and eventually became the first female chief of station at CIA. Eloise was known among her colleagues to be a fierce fighter with a core of steel, and she earned the codename Iron Butterfly. Our podcast continues her legacy, inviting the unsung heroines of the United States intelligence community to share their stories with aspiring leaders like you. Women in the intelligence community are special because they have dedicated their lives to studying the whole world. And through conversations with hundreds of women in intelligence over the past few years, we have come to understand that the world is at an inflection point. Women hold a more central role in society than ever before. And at Iron Butterfly Media, we are committed to amplifying authentic voices that inspire women to create wherever they are. So pull up a chair. Our changing world needs new ideas made real, which begins with you. Welcome to Iron Butterfly Podcast.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy Hanstein and I am the social media manager for Iron Butterfly Media. And I'm going to be introducing our guest today. Before we do that, here is a little about me. I've been with Iron Butterfly since January 2024. Outside of my role at Iron Butterfly, I work as a contractor for the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and I'm a graduate student at Texas A&M University, the Bush School of Government and Public Service DC teaching site, obtaining a degree in international policy. I fell in love with Iron Butterfly as a listener in 2020. As you all may remember, Iron Butterfly did a live podcast episode back in September 2023 at the Bush School in DC. When they notified us that this would be happening, obviously I was super excited. And it was the day where I got to meet Megan and Katie in person and create a great relationship, which led me to joining the team. Now, over to our amazing guest. Today we are joined by Marty Fromuth, a self-proclaimed nerd. She is currently activated in the Air Force Reserves as the Chief of Staff for Legislative Affairs at United States Cyber Command. Keeping close to her passion for technology and artificial intelligence and national security, her career spans nearly 17 years in and out of government service and the tech industry, to include Amazon Web Services, where she worked to develop AI solutions and prototypes for national security customers. While she enjoys coding in her free time, yes, she freely admits this, she is obsessed with her two dogs, Dutch and Penny Lane, and is always looking for the next speakeasy in DC to try with her husband. Marty, welcome to Iron Butterfly. We are so excited to have you on the podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Iron Butterfly Podcast.
Hi.
Hello.
Super excited to be here. Thanks, ladies. I appreciate it.
We are just thrilled that you said yes. Thanks for coming.
Like I said, on the way up here, I was like floored and honored when you asked me to be on the podcast. I thought, oh my gosh, why me? But yeah, I've been a big fan, so I'm really excited. And the women that you've had in here have been just phenomenal. I know a few of them, and they're just incredible women. So I'm grateful to be part of that clan.
Well, you deserve it. And
Yeah, you're an Iron Butterfly now.
You are.
Love it. Love it.
We should, I wonder if we could do a designation like this. We now bestow on you.
And then Amanda can do the air horn.
Pins and like
Everyone's told us we need to get pins. The thing is, Katie and I, so first of all, what you need to know about me, I think the listeners know this by now, but I am a swag aficionado.
Queen.
Yeah, I just love swag. And if we do the pins, we plan on doing the pins,
Okay,
but
good.
we want to do nice pins, like
Yeah.
a little bit fancier pins, which are going to cost more money.
Understood.
So we're waiting, but they are going to come.
Sweet.
And you
If
will
any
get
of
one.
our listeners make nice pins.
Or want to sponsor us. So
That's
that
a
we can get
wonderful
them.
call out. I love that. I love that.
Either way,
What's more likely?
sponsor. I mean, that would be amazing. So it's kind of crazy because we really just met each other
Yeah.
this year.
Like a couple months ago, which feels like
I know.
don't understand because I feel like I've known you for
I
forever.
I know. We literally met a few months ago at this event called Tech Duels that you were a part of.
Yeah.
And can you describe what it is?
Sure. So it's basically a forum that kind of allows for people in the tech industry in various different capacities to come and sort of educate people that are non-tech on particular topics by way of a debate. And so it's kind of, bridging the gap between tech and non-tech, both teaching people in tech how to speak English sometimes and translate like super complex topics. And on the other side, people who are interested or want to learn more about tech to hear about it in a unique fashion. So we were looking at artificial intelligence, whether or not it should be truly, autonomous, or if you should have, some oversight on it. So it was a pretty highly debated topic.
What was your opinion?
So my opinion was different than ultimately the team that I was on. So I do believe there should be a little bit of kind of, we call it human on the loop or human in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
But I was on the fully autonomous side. So I had to,
so you don't get to pick your opinion.
No, you do not.
Oh.
So I felt like I was back in high school and like mock trial again. And I was like, oh man, I've got to win this. Like my hyper competitive side came out. And I was
Do you feel like you changed your own mind?
No.
Oh.
So I think I matured my thought on it, my perspective on it. I this is probably not super surprising. I think, extremes are probably not the best idea in most cases. So there's got to be sort of a mixture in both. But it was a fun topic, and it totally got into the national security side at one point where we talked about autonomous weapons and, whatnot. And it was a fun debate.
No, it was a really cool event, and I met you there. Actually, Jacqueline Tame introduced us, who was on the opposing side of your team.
Yep.
And I have to say your team did win.
We did, which I was surprised about. But we won by like a hair too, which, I think just speaks to the fact that it's, a highly debated topic, but also just the phenomenal. It was the first all women debate, by the way.
Yes.
That's
why I went, because I was invited by the founder, primarily because it was an all women panel, and it was really cool. And what's crazy is, so we met there and we hit it off, and we were like, let's go and have breakfast or lunch together. And we did. We sat there and talked about Housewives.
Oh yeah.
We talked about just culture, pop culture, and all the things. And it was so fun.
Which housewife are you?
Oh my gosh, how do I choose? I watch all franchises. I also dabble on the spinoffs like Vanderpump Rules, and now there's Vanderpump
Valley.
Oh, the Valley, obviously. Now there's Vanderpump Villa on Hulu. That's not meant to be sort of an advertisement, but like literally.
Don't worry, we're hashtagging everything.
We sure are.
I'm not gonna lie, I watch it all. And I actually found, like, I talked to you about this. So many women, like, that is the way for them to turn off the brain.
Yeah,
and my husband loves to judge me, and then he'll sit in the back. And
and drink a glass of red wine in his robe. And,
and also make comments. And I'm like, so you're not watching this, right? And, what? Yeah, okay.
You hear them saying, my husband does too, and he'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
Why did they say that?
It's really bad for me now, because now I'm rewatching some, because there's some shows that are not on air anymore, like Shaws of Sunset, and I loved Shaws of Sunset, and now I'm rewatching it, and my husband's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, once you're in, you're in.
You're just in.
You're kind of a lifer.
And so that's how we bonded, and now you're here.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. I remember coming home from that breakfast brunch turned into lunch, and just being like, oh my gosh, that was so what I needed. And it was just a phenomenal, experience to talk with you. So
I felt the same.
Where'd you go?
We went to Ruthie's all day in Arlington.
Nice.
It was nice.
I haven't been there.
Oh, you're missing out.
No,
That's good.
Clearly.
Well, we'll go.
Okay. See you next week.
Yeah. Tell me where and when, and I'll be there. The brisket little hash thing is delicious.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Their
wow.
lattes are good too.
That's very important too.
Yeah, I mean, all good things. Okay, we're here to talk about you. So we are going to just jump right in
Sweet.
and start with just about who you are, where you came from, what is, where did you grow up? How did you come into the national security space? Like what's your personal history?
Yeah. So truth in advertising, I sort of fell into it on accident. But I think, even though it was accidental how I got into it, it definitely just kind of helped me sort of hone who I am. So I'm the oldest of 3 girls. My dad's an OBGYN, my mom's a nurse practitioner, and so I kind of grew up my entire life surrounded by science and technology and sort of the service to others in many ways. And I was always incredibly inquisitive, and I loved kind of digging into technical problems and hard things. Sort of a running joke. We kind of were building my mom's house when I was younger, and would sit and like ask the plumber multiple times, like, why? What's going on? What are you doing?
Oh my
Love
God,
that.
that's incredible.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up constantly asking questions, and I had such a wonderful, my sisters were phenomenal. My mom and dad were super, empowering. And so I just kind of grew up and feeling really powerful, for lack of a better way of putting it, and not like knowing a lot of the kind of gender biases that I would, eventually discover later on in life. And then I went to school, and I needed to find a way to pay for school. And so I went through the Reserve Officer Training Corps. And it was a happy accident. My dad did it to pay for medical school because he didn't come from money. So he needed, a way to do that. And I was like, oh, sounds like fun. It's supposed to be a 4-year gig. 17 years later, I'm still here.
Love it.
Yeah. And I thought I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe a lawyer. And they threw me into Intel, and truly it could not have been more perfect. So I guess I got really, really, really lucky, for lack of a better way of putting it, that I just kind of happened into all of it. And I love it. Kind of piques all my different, nerdiness, inquisitiveness, the human interaction, which I also love. So it's kind of.
Do you remember the
happened.
day that they told you that you were going to be Intel?
Yeah.
What was your, paint the scene? What was that like?
So in the Air Force, the summer between your sophomore and junior year, you go through the officer boot camp for when you do it in ROTC. And if you do really well, or kind of, perform well, they bring you back the next year, and you're sort of like this mini drill instructor. And I got brought back, which was hysterical because I'm probably the nicest person in the world. And, when I start being mean, I start laughing. But it was actually me and one of my closest friends, and they sat us down and they were like, hey, so you guys are both going to be Intel. And I just looked at him and I go, what's that? And it wasn't until I showed up at San Angelo, Texas, Goodfellow Air Force Base, that I kind of started to dig into it. And I saw the human side of it and the technical side of it. And I just started realizing, that's super cool. All I knew from Intel was through Top Gun, which I realize is the most
Oh my God.
trite thing ever. But when I was a kid, I used to actually, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but whatever. I used to sit and watch Top Gun when I was a little kid, and I'd dance around a highway to the danger zone. And I just remember we were communicating, and I was like, oh, is that Intel? But she's not in a uniform. So that was my only awareness of Intel until I got to school. And I mean, it's not totally like that.
It was totally.
There were parts
Tom
of it.
Cruise isn't just
No,
shining his plane.
Only
No.
sometimes.
only sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not flying Mach 12 or something and then somehow ejecting and not dying. Sorry, that was the second
Totally
one.
unrelated. And I am sure we are going to get a lot of comments from what I'm just about to say.
What's so
I love
funny?
those kind of
Before she
comments.
even
Keep
does
going.
this, Megan and I have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Megan's one of my best friends. When she does this, I literally don't know what she's about to say. Like, she could say anything right now.
So, oh my God. Okay. Okay. So in Top Gun, are they Air Force or are they Navy?
They are Navy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you were going to say?
Well, because people are going to say, they're going to be like, oh my God, either you don't know that or like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is sort of the running joke. So my husband's a retired Marine, and they are underneath the Department of the Navy. And when I told him I used to watch Top Gun all the time, he was like, well, how come you weren't in the Navy? And I was like, because I don't like water. It was as simple as that. Listen, sometimes I get into like hyper analytic like decision making, and other times I'm like, nope, this is simple. I don't do well in water. We're going to be not in the Navy.
Oh my God, I love that. Wow. I love that you don't get along with water too.
No. It was, yeah.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania. Actually, I grew up all over the place. My dad, like I said, was a physician. So after medical school, he moved kind of all around for residency, and then spent 4 years in the Air Force, kind of paying back in the Air Force for the time to kind of pay for his medical school. So Erie, Pennsylvania, New York, Idaho, and then we eventually made our way back to Pennsylvania, which is where both my parents are from. And then I spent school there our high school there, and then went to school up in Boston at Boston University. So I people say they hear an accent, which I don't. Of course, it's me. So, but
what accent do they hear?
That's what I want to know.
I don't hear one, but I have one. So
fair. So yeah, no, I'm a Pennsylvania girl.
Did you know that when you have an accent, you can't hear an
well,
accent?
no, but if we had a similar accent, because Chicago accent and Boston accent, people think that they sound the same, even though they don't.
They don't. But
And so that's why I said that. But whatever. So what did you major in college?
So funny enough, I majored in international relations. I really loved, when I was in high school, I was a total like theater nerd. And so I, sang and was in musicals and danced. We went overseas for this thing called American Music Abroad, and we like sang in all these churches, which was just the coolest thing. And I thought, I want to go live overseas. This seems super cool to learn different cultures. So I went to school, and I was like, yeah, I want to do foreign affairs and international relations. And then it was super fun. And I took an econ class because it was required. And I thought, gosh darn it, this silly math thing that I used to really, really like. I know
Econ is the worst.
But see, I know, but also I loved it. So
You did?
Yeah, I really like math. And I loved my calculus class in high school. I know that's like the most insane thing to say, but when I started taking econ, I was like, oh, this is the math human element that I've sort of always been looking for. So I double majored in IR and econ.
Oh my goodness. Holy moly.
But it was also that person that like gamed out all the classes in like the Rubik's Cube. So that way, like, I found all the classes that would like count for both. And I like I played the game real smart.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So where did you go after college?
So I commissioned into the Air Force in 2007, and I went straight to Texas in a small little town called San Angelo. It's where we've got our schoolhouse, and I spent a little over a year there, and I met some of the most phenomenal people that are still friends to this day. Many of them actually either from here or are now back here.
Mm-hmm.
And then started my whirlwind travel across the world in the Air Force, from the Middle East to Korea, probably one of my favorite assignments, to DC, to Nellis, out in Las Vegas, and then where I kind of really got into the intelligence community down in now Fort Eisenhower, Augusta, Georgia, and then back here. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Who knew there were intel in all those places?
Yeah, there's also a lot of operational elements too. So the part of intel that I kind of did a lot was working with the operational units. Hence the reason why I say Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of kind of rang home a little bit to some of the parts I worked with, flying units. And I was their officer that talked about, the threats and whatnot. So, yeah.
Do you have something?
I do.
Okay,
but
go ahead. I
go
can
for
go
it.
later.
Well, I was going to ask what was similar to Top Gun and what was different from Top Gun.
The similar parts were how you got to really get into the technical side, which was a lot of fun. And I think that was the part that I really kind of enjoyed that I didn't know that I would enjoy. Like I was super afraid of technology. Despite what I do now, I thought, I don't know how to do this. Like I'm not smart enough, things that somewhere in my life I had heard and just sort of internalized. I never thought I would be good at tech. And so the technical side, ironically, was really similar and was actually the thing that I really enjoyed. But at the same time, if you're talking about military weapon systems, there's people that actually run and operate those. And that's kind of where I got my human element too. So I got to like think through the lens of how, that country, the culture, the history, the interactions would kind of make them, operate that military technology. So that was the kind of fun part. The things that were not the same, I'm very grateful for. Although I did date a pilot, which, totally different conversation, but the
We can talk about it if you want.
No, I think
we're good.
I think we need to do an episode on military pilots.
Oh gosh.
That's a whole episode all unto itself. Anyway.
No, I won't disagree with
I'm
you.
married to a military pilot, so
Oh,
I
you
don't know what
are?
that means for me.
Oh.
Your military pilot is a rare breed. Your
Oh.
husband.
Shout out, Greg.
Shout
There
out
you
to
go.
Greg.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of treated like the kid sister, which was awesome. And it's where I got my call sign. It's where I kind of it was just a much different, like, not that Top Gun wasn't team, but it was definitely like very macho, right? Like when I was in the squadron, it felt like family. So it was a little bit broader. I think it was more encompassing, which I really liked. And I had a lot of fun doing it. Now, it's a lot of work and the hours were kind of crazy. I think that's like every job, but it was a lot of fun. It was really, really fun. So
That's cool.
So I wonder if you could share with us kind of, your stepping stones throughout your career in the Air Force and like maybe, your favorite jobs and what kept you in.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so kind of major stepping stones. I have always been super lucky in that all of the positions that I've been in or the assignments that I've had in the Air Force, I've found phenomenal people. And more importantly, I've found phenomenal women. And a lot of them have kind of rose up into the ranks and done incredible things. Jen Savata, who's been on your podcast before, was one of those women. And, I think I've had, some ups and downs in my career, but it's been the people and whatnot that have not probably 100% kept me in. And that watching change and watching the impact that you can have, even if it's something very small, that's the thing that just, it just keeps you going. It's just it's the lifeblood. Being that I grew up in service and I grew up kind of like engaged with people and figuring out how to help them. Like that's what I saw through my parents. It made total sense to me. And that's kind of what keeps me going. But I started off active duty and, I was really lucky in that I was surrounded by those amazing women and they kind of helped put me in the right places and kind of gave me really great opportunities. But I would be lying if I said it was all easy. I think one of the major turning points for me, and this is, things that I think really honed who I was in the Air Force was, I'm actually a weapons school washout, which a lot of people will say, like, why would you talk about that? And I've actually gotten that a lot of times from people like, why would you talk about your failure? like, don't talk about your failure. People don't want to hear about that. I'm like, no, people totally do. And it's something that like has shaped me. And I'm not proud of failing out, but I'm proud of how I dealt with it. So for those that like aren't completely familiar, speaking of Top Gun, there's a school that the Air Force has. It's very similar to Top Gun. But they have it for all different types of career fields. So it's not just pilots. They have it for intel too. And I got picked up really young, and I went and I was doing really well. And it's about a 5.5-month program. And I mean, it is really intense. And they run the gamut from highly technical to kind of human. Yeah, I mean, it's just all different parts and pieces, and you have to learn so many different things. And I'd done pretty well. And about 2 weeks prior to graduation, I just couldn't get through one of the parts. And so they washed me out. And that was tough. It was probably one of the kind of, it still is one of the elements, even in my life, in my person, that's really kind of defined me. And I've been trying to change, and I think I've been successful in changing that from like a negative into a positive. You know, I did a lot of self-reflection. I had some tough conversations with myself about, you know, I was young. I was 24, 25. You know, I had a lot of growing up to do. You know, and there was a lot of things I had to learn. There was a lot of things about myself, having not, you know, necessarily understood how I engage with people and how it can come off. I had to make some edits and some changes. And I think after that, I kind of wanted a clean break. I had told my commanders, you know, after about 3 years of sort of proving myself afterwards, and I got to a place where I felt like, no, I can do this. Like I am capable, which was more proof to myself than anyone else. But after about 3 years, I said, you know, I need a little bit of a change, because after 8 and some change years in the Air Force, I was known more by my call sign than by my first name. And I can always tell. So like I go by Marty, and it's not my call sign. It's what I've been going by since I was a kid. When I get in trouble, not that I do anymore at 40, but when I was young, I would get Marty, not Maureen. So I can always tell when people know me or when they don't know me. And everyone called me by my call sign, Speed, and I would answer to that. But it had been so long since I heard my first name.
Oh, wow. And
so I said, I got to do something different. And I have to think about me. And I know how I am because I get so like focused in on something and I give something my all, that if I didn't make a drastic change by getting out of active duty, that would just be kind of where I went. And I think a lot of that came from that self-reflection. So I got out of active duty and I got here and did some more stuff in the Air Force and finally kind of broke free from full-time service. And that's when I got into the tech industry with Amazon. So that was like a huge pivotal change where this tech thing that I had really liked, the science that I had dabbled in, you know, I taught myself some advanced physics and, you know, electromagnetic theory, which was crazy because I liked math. I didn't know physics. But I kind of like totally leaned in head first, and it was super fun. That's how I got my AI, my artificial intelligence bug bit. So.
I think before we go on, I'm sure Katie has some
I have a
follow-ups.
lot of
Go.
Yeah, go. I already know.
So I love to hear that you basically reinvented yourself multiple times. Once by choice, once not by choice.
Yeah.
Can you like talk about that process? Like what that's like? Because like, I don't know, just like as I was reflecting, I think so many women or just people are like, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
And you want to make a choice.
Yeah.
But it's like a whole person choice. Like it's not just like let me like switch my job.
Yeah.
It's like a personal transformation.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not sure I did it with the most finesse, so I'm not really sure I can like tell someone how to do it effectively. I kind of bobbled around a lot. I my dad is in medicine, but one of the things that I really love about our relationship, and we've had kind of a tenuous relationship for a myriad of different reasons, but we've become very close over the years. And one of the things that we've always connected on is this introspection, this idea of kind of taking a step back and thinking and like kind of dissecting where you are and what you're feeling and like giving validation to your emotions, which, from a dad is the most mind-blowing thing, because you're like, what? Like totally like destroys gender stereotypes. But again, OBGYN, so he's surrounded by women. But I had to, there were really not phenomenal days. And I think you almost kind of got to the bottom and you had to start with like, what is it that I like about myself? And what is it that I feel happy doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't happen overnight. That happened like years. And sort of the thing my dad used to always tell me is put one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think I always did it very gracefully. And sometimes the foot was really a toe. But I just had to keep moving forward until I got to a place where I was like, okay. And some days I fall back. But I've that reinvention happened, I think, because I was forced.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it made me stronger. That's why I say, like, I like talking about it because it's such an important part of my story and my career, but also my person. Like I just I think it's part of the reason why I felt more comfortable when I did get out of the military and I went into the tech industry, where again I still worked in the national security space. I said I can do this because I've done it before.
Yeah, for sure.
I've done it before. That's not to say I again was completely fearless. There was a crap ton of fear, but I had kind of gone through that, and I think everyone has their moment. Everyone has that time where they think either fairly or unfairly, I've kind of been pushed down or not given a fair chance, or no one's listened to me.
Yeah.
And I find that with so many different women who have that story a lot too. And so they've had to figure out like, how do I reinvent myself? But I will say I went back to me so I could figure out what was authentically me. And I stopped apologizing for the things that I realized, in some ways that, as a woman, I would be slightly treated differently. And I had to kind of act, I'm air quoting for the people that are not watching. I had to kind of be aware of some of the biases that I didn't even know existed. But at the same time, I was going to be me. I'm going to be emotional. I'm going to wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm going to, have tough days, and I'm going to vent, but I'm going to get things done. And I'm going to be, I'm going to be a teammate, and I'm going to be passionate. That's just who I am.
You're going to be your authentic self.
Exactly. But I will say this. I know there's sort of like, I think you guys have a butterfly kind of rippling effect that you've been talking about. So there was a senior non-commissioned officer that I worked with down in Fort Eisenhower, down in Augusta. And she was kind of also going through this moment, and she felt very frustrated about things. And I just remember one of the things I kept telling myself is, what is in my sphere of control and what is in my span of influence? So what can I control and what can I influence? If it's not in either of one of those things, and I can't move the space to make that happen, I can't control it. So I have to let it go. And I saw her maybe 3 years later, and she was like, that has foundationally changed my life. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but that's why you do this. That's why I opened up. Because if you don't, it just becomes your experience. And I feel like I want to share it so other people can experience it too. Again, that's the kind of service element that I always grew up with.
Thank you for sharing that.
I feel like that was so profound. I'm going to need to listen to this like 20 times because I think it's like, it's when you talk about reinventing yourself, like so often it becomes so easy for us to just like tether ourselves to the things like external to us in our life, like to our job, like to our city, to our partner, to our friends. Like you just get in this routine. And I think it's like times just listening to your story that I reflect on, like when I was actually ripped out of that.
Yeah.
Like that's when you actually have to turn to yourself.
Yeah.
Of like, I loved the questions that you said of like, what do I like about myself? And like, what do I love to do? And like, what brings me joy? Because I think we don't ask ourselves those questions unless we're forced to.
Yeah.
And it's like the turning inward that's, I think, really profound and like really transformational.
Yeah.
But it comes at moments when like you don't do it by choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it stinks when it has to be forced upon you. But that's where I do think like there's a little bit of whether it's a plan or whatever, things happen for a reason, you know, whatever your beliefs are. Like I think I was meant to go through that. I was meant to have that conversation with myself, because I hope that my conversations as a result of that, you know, I'm not saying I do this well, but I hope someone else can take solace in, hey, I'm not alone. Like I was really lucky and I had a lot of people around me that even though I felt really isolated down there because it's a small, you know, group and, you know, it's for a myriad of different reasons, but I had so many women again and friends who would check in and make sure, and so many of them are still in my life now. But you're not alone when you're going through this. Like you might have to look inside, but you can hold on to someone else's hand while you're doing it. And I think that's why I share the story. So, yeah.
So what do you like about yourself and what does bring you joy?
Good question.
I do like my passion. I do like my vulnerability. And I think those things are, you know, important. I love my nerdiness. Gosh, that took a long time to really accept. But I like it a lot. And I like my unsatiating, like my inability to ever feel like I have enough knowledge or like that I'm learning. You know, and I think those are the things that I've kept going with, you know. There's a lot of things that I don't like about myself. And I think, you know, there are days where those voices get a lot louder than the things that I like about myself. But I will say, like, a lot of the work that I put in, you know, has helped me kind of in those tough moments be like, okay, one foot in front of the other.
Just keep walking.
Remember those voices will get quieter later. So
I love it. This was great, man. I almost feel bad like moving forward. But one of the things you said you loved about yourself is, you know, continuing to love to learn.
Yeah.
And so you leave active duty and you transition into a different life.
Yeah.
Even though you liked tech and you were doing tech, now you're like in tech. And so tell me what that was like, and, you know, how did you make that leap and where did you go? And, you know.
So when I was doing analysis in the Air Force, one of the things I didn't realize, you know, was that I had already sort of started diving into data and kind of doing analysis on big data. Like I didn't realize I was doing it and it wasn't a thing, you know, when I was young as it is today. So I kind of, my, you know, need and curiosity led me to look at, you know, artificial intelligence programs and the Defense Department. And when I made my jump over to Amazon, AWS in particular, and I worked with their national security team, I walked in and I was like, listen, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but I really want to get into artificial intelligence. I think it's incredibly like fascinating and interesting, and I want to learn all things and anything about it. And I'm not normally like, I'm definitely the girl in the room that like raises my hand 70 times because I have questions and I really want to learn and understand. But I'm not the person, it just doesn't feel authentic for me to like push myself into a room. But I pushed myself into a room. I was like, nope, I'm getting out of my comfort zone because this is important to me. So I'm going to live a little bit uncomfortably for what I know I like, and I'm going to go learn. And so I spent 3 years just soaking up everything and doing, a lot of different cool things, meeting wonderful people in the community, in the tech industry, asking a myriad of questions. And I said, yeah, like this is my passion. And it was just sort of like, it just sort of full circle moment of like, I've always been analytic. This is an opportunity to be analytic. You like tech, like the human, like just, it all just kind of fit together. And I was like, yep. Okay. I got it now. So, yeah.
Tell us about a day that sticks out in your mind where you were like, wow, this is it.
Ooh. That's a good question. I feel like there's so many of them. So we had been kind of working on, I think internally a lot of different, projects and whatnot. And for me, again, it's sort of the human aspect, the people aspect. We have a lot of different teams that work with the customer, again, air quotes, but people that are in government that need the technology. And it was just watching these teams kind of come together and like really move in such a fun way. Like highly technical people, like, I mean, just the smartest individuals you'll ever meet. And we just all came together and we were able to create this solution that was, I mean, truly groundbreaking. I mean, we shattered ceilings. But watching them and then watching the team just kind of like high five each other, you got to see industry folks that had not been in national security for their entire life, just like feeling it. They finally got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was like, yeah. And that's that like really important relationship between industry and national security that I discovered when I was on the other side of like, hey, one team, one fight. Like we need to share back and forth a little bit. But I mean, even to this day, one of the individuals I worked with, he's literally asking me, how do I get in government? Because he was so moved by that experience and was like, I know pay is different. I know these things. My life is going to change. But actually, I've had multiple people ask me about this. Like, how do I get to that place again? Because the mission was just so impactful to them. And that's where I was like, yep, this is cool. Like, this is a lot of fun. So
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So you're still working there.
So because I love to reinvent myself, I did it a third time. I even though I got out of active service, full-time service, I transitioned into the Air Force Reserves where while I was at Amazon, I did a part-time. And when you're a little bit kind of mid-career, more senior career, they look at ways to develop you as an officer. And one of the programs that they have is a legislative fellowship program. So I got to go work in the White House and then also work on Capitol Hill in Senator Duckworth's office, working on her national security team where I looked at policy. And like, that's a phenomenal, total different kind of vantage point. But I, again, led in with my tech side and said, I'll do whatever you want. But if you have things technical, give them to me. And it was super cool. I actually wrote legislation, which my office they named it after me. They called it the Marty Act. And I literally,
That's amazing.
They told me and I like cried on the phone.
Do you have it? Do you have it printed?
No. So of course, because I was, they tried to get me there as they like walked it to, it's little known Capitol Hill secrets. You literally still over on the Senate have to print off paper copies and walk them to what they call the cloakroom. And then they'll scan them and then put them into congress.gov. But they were going to have me walk with them to the cloakroom, and I got caught up in something else and I couldn't get out of it.
Well, you were there in spirit.
That's what yeah, exactly. But I have it, and I'm going to go back to the office and see if I can at least get the auto pen of it. But I mean, when they told me, I was like, you guys are way too kind. So
Oh, that's the best.
yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
cool.
Can you tell us what the Marty Act is?
Yeah. So one of the things that, is really kind of unique in national security right now is how important folks that have artificial intelligence experiences. And I think one of the misnomers is that you have to be a coder in order to do AI. And for most part, yes, but there's a lot of different kind of parts that also are related to artificial intelligence, whether it's a program manager or compliance and legal and policy, or kind of an individual that works with the end user to kind of relay information back and forth, kind of help shape, call those like engagement leads in some cases. But there are people that like have these skills, and there's so many more people that are coming in that have coding experience. And so the Marty Act was trying to get the services to kind of look at those key kind of find designators for those of us like me. My primary career field is Intel. I don't want to change it to anything. I love what I do. But I'd like for the Air Force to know that I have this skill. And so it was kind of pushing the services to kind of do that. And on the reserve side, to also be allowed for our civilian experience to count. So that way, again, they know what they've got, and they can kind of use us a little bit more. Because I was like, I got this. Someone use me. I feel like I don't, like I can help. So yeah.
You know what's kind of cool is it was a full circle, because you had said part of the reason you left active duty is you wanted people to know you by your name.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh man, I didn't even think about that.
now you have legislation with your name on it. It's kind of
Man,
cool.
I'm tearing up here. Wow.
Thinking that was
We totally like, I love this. Yes.
So, Marty,
Yeah.
I would love to know what you do for fun.
Ooh, you mean outside of Housewives?
Yes.
Outside of Housewives. We can talk about Housewives.
I mean,
again
that takes
if
up a
you want.
lot of time.
It does.
We have to keep up on our
It's true.
shows
Yeah.
and our people.
I agree. I'm a dog lover.
Ooh.
I've got 2 of them. They're the best darn
I
things
think
ever.
that's what we also
bonded on the
because
dogs.
I said I'm a crazy lady. I have 3, and you're like, it's okay. I have 2.
Yeah, I want a 3rd. I've been told multiple times no. I'm on the Facebook like doodle adoption.
Oh, you're gonna get a 3rd.
Oh, that's I know. And my husband's like, no.
It's okay. Megan's husband said no too, but
That's
now
what-
she has 3.
So I did tell my husband this. I was like, so I had great like breakfast conversations, and she has 3. And he was like, nope. I was like, crap. But no, I've got the best dogs, and I love them to death. So there's that. And my husband and I are, we have a quirky, fun relationship, and one of the things that we love doing is going and looking for speakeasies in DC and all over.
Okay, we have a lot to talk
Okay.
about.
Katie's like, ding, 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 ding.
Sweet. So he used to also live in San Diego, and he did the same thing in San Diego. And so when we
Oh.
met, I was like, oh my God. We bonded over donuts and speakeasies, mostly donuts. But yeah,
That's a good
great.
combo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so give us your top speakeasy right now.
Oh, what's the Alice in Wonderland one down in DC right now? And I'm blanking on it. I always blank on this. That's a good one. Captain Gregory's in Alexandria is always
Okay.
a crowd
Mhm.
pleaser. I think it's super fun. It used to be in a donut shop. So like literally it could not
2
have been
birds with
worse.
one
I
stone,
know. We used to do that too. It'd be like, grab a donut, go have a drink. It's like total like sugar rush, but I didn't care. That's one of my favorite ones so far.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Have you been to OKPB in DC?
No.
Oh, add that to the list.
I'm like opening up my little notebook right now.
It's in Mount Pleasant. and
OKPB.
OKPB. It's in Mount Pleasant. It's like in a laundromat.
I've heard about this.
And you just, what I love about it, you're going to love this too, even though you don't drink. You just tell them like your vibe.
Really?
Yeah, you're just like.
When you walk in?
Well, when you order
When
a
you
drink.
order, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
You're like, if I was Megan, I'd say, I'm feeling sassy today.
I'm always feeling sassy.
There'd be tequila
And
in that one.
There would.
For sure.
Yeah, there would. And then they're like, they ask you some questions and then it's like all vibes. And then they
Okay.
make you a drink and it's always delicious.
So I will totally do that. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Denson. Have you been to the Denson yet?
Denson's great.
So it was my first birthday here in the city. And we went there and it's just, I love it. It's got like a very classic, like 1920s kind of vibe. And when we got married in Old Town Alexandria. And we did like a very classic 1920s, like old Hollywood sort of feel. So like, I love the Denson.
Oh, it's
and the
good.
drinks are great too. So.
Yeah, great martini at the Denson.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Our listeners
So
are
we'll
getting
go to breakfast
a lot.
and then we'll go to the
drinks. I love it.
They're just getting a lot today.
Yeah.
And
they
Housewives. I mean, we're peppering all.
I mean,
making-
I know.
how many hashtags do you guys have now?
A lot. I'm already thinking, I'm like, because normally we re-listen to the episode and we write down all the tags. And I'm like, maybe during these, I should be writing them down because they're a lot. But there have been more than one episode. It is, like you said earlier, there are a lot of women who listen to the Housewives or watch the Housewives.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's like a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is literally one of the most funny things. I will find these women who just, I mean, they're so inspirational and like just doing everything and anything. And I mentioned something about, a housewife, or I talk about Teresa, or I talk about like, how do you feel about Erica Jane? And like, boom, their face lights up. And I mean, it is like game on. I'm like, okay. And it's become like a thing. Like now I like try and ask them, test out the waters. But yeah, it's just when you have, listen, I'm also very transparent. I deal with anxiety. And so for me, it's just a way of like calming my brain down.
That's how I feel. Katie didn't realize I'm going to throw her under the bus a little
Yeah.
bit. So after we met,
Yeah.
it was like a week later, or after we had breakfast, I got invited by another fantastic, fabulous Iron Butterfly, Jana Scott Tarman, to be on Watch What Happens Live.
Right. I watched this, by the way.
And she knew that I was a big fan. And she was like, I got us on. You got to come over and like, we'll do the whole thing.
Yep.
And so it was exciting because I'm a big Bravo
Yeah.
person, and I was on and it was really exciting. And then I posted it in our Slack channel and Katie's like, later on, like after I got the footage and
Yeah.
stuff I posted, she was like, I don't think I realized what you were doing and how big of a deal it was. I was like,
Mhm.
it was a big deal.
Well,
National television.
she took
Watch What
a-
Happens Live with Andy Cohen.
Yeah. She took a selfie before and she was just with Jana at a laptop taking a selfie. And I was like, oh, that's fun. They're like playing an online game or something.
No.
I'm getting pictures from like random relatives of Megan being like, what is going on?
That's amazing. So you did tell me this and I went and watched it and I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't even watch Summer House, but now I'm
I
totally
don't
gonna
either.
watch it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
But after I watched her, that when I
Yeah.
because I don't either, but Jana does, and so she knew like all the
yeah.
stuff, all the tea. But then after I was on and I heard their dialogue, I was like, oh, I should probably watch Summer House.
It looks pretty legit. I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
So I will also say this: Andy Cohen is a Boston University graduate, which is
Oh.
also my alma mater. So I'm just doing alumni research. That's what I say.
Might be
Watching.
billable. You don't know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do we even want to go back? I mean, I feel like we need to round out what are you doing now? Where are you now?
So I am currently doing legislative affairs at U.S. Cyber Command. I'm our chief of staff, and so I have the kind of continued pleasure of being able to work for, again, some phenomenal leaders and really inspirational national security challenges and spaces, and get to liaison with Congress, and it's a lot of fun. Whether it's hearings or briefings, we have a phenomenal team, but I also kind of get to keep that fun space between the human element and the tech element, and national security, that sort of triad, if you will. So it's a lot of fun. I'm going to be kind of heading out this summer and back into the industry right now, back to Amazon, which I'm also, excited to kind of cut my teeth. I think I'm a really big believer of people being able to kind of bounce in and out, because I think it helps bridge the gaps, and I think I've always been sort of a translator, kind of living between different places and spaces and communities. And I just, I was really eye-opening the importance of industry if we do it right. So I'm going to go back that way, and maybe one day I'll be back in government, and we'll see. So
I love it.
Yeah. I can't figure out what I want to do when I grow up. Just generally kind of the things that make me happy.
You might be able to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. A few times. Why not a few more?
The Real Housewives of the intelligence community.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Sign me up.
Oh my
They
God.
would
At
never
Bravo.
approve that.
No, they
At
wouldn't. Bravo.
They would never approve
Give
it.
us a call.
But OMG.
Oh, the nerdy conversation.
That would be
All the three-letter acronyms that
Oh,
we
yeah,
would
no
be-
one would.
Oh my God, it would be
They'd
the
need like an
worst.
entire they'd need AI to be able
Yes.
to translate everything that we are saying. There'd be it'd be great.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah. I'm totally down.
Oh my gosh.
I promise I won't throw any glasses or wine.
Flip
Tables. Yep.
Hey, never say never. You never know.
It's true.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
I think we're at the end.
I know. I'm
I'm
so
really sad.
How did that
sad.
go so fast?
I know. This was so fun.
I know. I have no concept of time.
Me either.
So we're going to end this episode the way we end every episode, which
Yeah.
is in keeping with the name of our podcast, Iron Butterfly.
Yeah.
If you had to give yourself a code name, what would it be and why?
Yeah. So I've thought a lot about this because I've watched a few of these, and for me it'd be codename Danvers. What's her full name? This is why I needed to get this out. Yeah, Danvers. For Carol Danvers, which is Captain Marvel's name. And here's why. I really have been so phenomenally impressed with what the intelligence community has been able to achieve. The women in the intelligence community has been able to achieve. I mean, we have shattered ceilings, and I think we have so many more to shatter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. But I think, part of the next chapter in that story is, what do we do now that we've shattered, right? There's been, such a huge focus in on the lean in movement and like sitting at the table, and I all those things need to continue. But I have to be authentically me. And as a woman, that requires a culture change, I shouldn't have to sit at the table if I don't want to, metaphorically speaking. If I want to be emotional, I want someone to realize that that's a benefit. It's not a bad word to say that I'm empathetic or that I'm passionate about something. And so one of the kind of big things in the movie is at the very end, where the individual that's been training her the whole time has basically been saying, the only time you're going to beat me is if you do so without your powers. You're not allowed to use your powers. And if you can beat me without your powers, then you are truly ready to be the most powerful. And so she basically throws the gloves off at the very end and is like, nope. And she crushes him, and then she sends him back. But what he says to her, and I had to write this down, was keep your emotions in check. You have to keep your emotions in check long enough to take me, or I'll always get the better of you. And I thought, that emotional in check thing, like, that's my superpower. That's the thing that makes me important and makes me like who I am. It's the empathy, it's the vulnerability. And so she said no. And she threw off the chains, and she didn't listen to what someone told her that she needed to be. she was authentically who she was. And I picked her real name because I didn't want to use her call sign. I didn't want to use her superpower name. I wanted to call her by her name, by who she is, not by the superhero that she's become or that she kind of wears around. So that's my code name.
That's great.
It's so good.
Well,
What was it? Danvers?
Danvers. Yeah.
Okay,
Carol
so we need a
Danvers.
Danvers act next.
oh,
Or what was it? Is it the Marty act? Is that
Yeah.
what it's called?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we need
the
a
Dan-
Danvers act next. So
Yeah.
We'll
There we
work
go.
on it.
We'll work on it.
yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you for being yourself and coming on today. And thank you for your service to this country. And I'm sure your dad is super proud. And
Yeah, thank you for being vulnerable.
for sure.
Like, I feel like there were so many things that I saw in your story that I know will resonate with women who just find themselves in that place where they feel like they don't know what they like about themselves and they don't know what they love. And I think having seen someone like you successfully cross that bridge is really inspiring.
Well, thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk about it and to be vulnerable and like a safe space. And that's what I love about the women that I'm around is we can do that. And it's, again, I can hold someone's hand. There's no judgment. You let me be who I need to be. And when you need it, I'll be there too. And I like women in the IC, we just do this so well. And I love it.
Me too. Oh, I got chills. That's how we're going to end.
This has been an episode of Iron Butterfly Podcast. We want to thank the National Security Institute at George Mason Scalia Law School, our founding sponsor, and Amazing Women of the IC for their promotion. To learn more about Iron Butterfly Media, visit our website at www.ironbutterflymedia.com. You can also learn more about NSI and upcoming events at nationalsecurity.gmu.edu. And to find out more about AWIC, email amazingwomen.ic@gmail.com. And if you like the show, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Lastly, we want to thank our podcast producer, Amanda Young, and the entire Iron Butterfly team. Stay fierce, and we'll talk next time.